Hello, everybody. Good morning, States. Good afternoon, Poland, and other countries in Europe. In May this year, I have a big pleasure to meet Esther, and some of the you know already. That was like during Impact event, Impact CEE 2023 in Poznań, in Poland. Esther was a guest there. And I was like on my way to the train, and my friends were like waiting for me when I just discovered that Esther is there. So it's really like last hour of the event, story of return. I returned for Esther to meet her. We had a chat, very nice one. I still recall it very well. And then during the chat, like the Google house was mentioned, the Chinese people taking photos, like making this like living in this house not very comfortable at all. But still, I just got my book signed, and we also, the guy from there like took a picture of us. A few days later, I sent the mail, say, "Hi Esther, it's me, Kosma from Poland," with this picture attached. And within the few months, we exchanged mails. I asked Esther to whether she is like willing to join us. She said yes, and it was, you know, a few months, dozens of mails. Promotion I started last week, and we are here after like a few months. This is where we landed. I'm very grateful to introduce you all our fellow guest from the United States, speaking from Stanford, one and only. Esther Wojcicki. Hello, Esther. Thanks for being with us.
Hello, Kosma. It's very nice to be here. I'm very excited to be here, actually, and I'm really glad that you took the last hour of the conference to come and meet me. So otherwise, I wouldn't be here.
Exactly. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. And on behalf of organizers, namely Students of Kreatywni Club, sorry. It's like two clubs, so I just put it jointly. It's like Students of Kozminski and Kreatywni Society. There are two clubs. Join the forces to make this event possible for you guys in order to celebrate the 30th anniversary of Kozminski University. So let's be amazed. Just listen, guys. Take notes. Just be inspired by Esther and her amazing talk. I've seen the slides already, so I'm just already amazed, but you can be like in a sec. And without further ado, floor is yours, Esther, and the guys, all the best. Have a nice time.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I'm very excited to talk about the power of believing in yourself, because I realize that that is one of the most important things that you can do to be successful. And most people don't think about it. And I'll give you multiple examples as I go through the slides. So just so you know who I am, I was the California Teacher of the Year in 2002. So that's like 20 years ago. The founder of Palo Alto High School Media Arts Program, which is the largest media program in the United States. I'm a pioneer in computers in education. I first started using computers in education in 1985. I'm also the co-founder of the Journalistic Learning Initiative at the University of Oregon, which is expanding really quite a bit at the moment. What we're trying to do there at the University of Oregon is to develop ways to help teachers teach journalism in the high schools and in the middle schools. And so far it's in all the schools in Oregon, and we're looking to put it in schools all over the United States. I have 3 honorary doctorates, so I'm very excited about that. And I'm the former chair of a very large organization that you might know about called Creative Commons. If you don't know about Creative Commons, I would suggest you look it up, creativecommons.org. So I'm called the godmother of Silicon Valley. And it's because so many of my students have gone on to very successful careers as in the industry. So in tech and as CEOs and as entertainers and as all different areas, but they've been very successful. And I'm the mother of a super family that you'll hear a little bit about. So this is my first book that I wrote it came out in 2015 called Moonshots in Education. And the target audience for that book was teachers. And it sold very well. It's an academic book. And so I thought, well, why don't I write a book for parents? And so this came out in 2020. This is How to Raise Successful People. It's actually today in 31 languages. And so it's all over the world, including all of Europe, and most of the Middle East and China, all over Asia as well. So it's in Polish. So you're welcome to buy it in Polish as well. So the main principle of the book is this acronym that I developed to help people remember what it means or what I was writing about. The acronym is TRIC, and TRIC stands for Trust, Respect, Independence, Collaboration, and Kindness. And I say change parenting, change the world, which is really 100% true. But it's also true if you do the same thing in the schools. Change schooling, you'll change the world. And kids learn to believe in themselves when they're young and when they then go to school. And unfortunately, the school system teaches most people around the world not to believe in themselves. And that's the problem. Because if you don't get the right answer for whatever class you're in or whatever project you're working on or whatever test, you feel bad about yourself and you think that you're just not good enough. And you're not alone. Everybody feels the same way. So the goal of my pedagogy, the goal of the way I'm teaching, is to empower you, empower students. And these are my first students, which are my three daughters, Susan, Janet, and Anne. And this was taken, we lived in Switzerland for a few years. This was taken in Switzerland. And this is Susan, Janet, and Anne today. Susan is wearing the blue, Janet is red, and then Anne is on the left side. And this was taken at the Breakthrough Prizes, which the Breakthrough Prizes are probably the best prizes in the world today for science. And I'm very happy that I'm involved in this group as well, Breakthrough Prizes. So this is what Susan does. She's the former CEO of YouTube. She actually bought YouTube for Google. She was the CEO for 9.5 years of YouTube. Before that, she was one of the early employees at Google, one of the first employees, and that is, you'll learn about that in a minute. This is my second daughter, Janet, who's a Fulbright scholar, and she's a professor of pediatrics at the University of California, San Francisco. And my third daughter is the founder of 23andMe, the largest personal genetics company in the world. And so the question is, what did I do to empower my daughters to reach their goals, the goals that they wanted to have in life? Not the goals, not my goals, not my husband's goals, but their goals. So this is where Google first started in 1998. And this is the garage, which my daughter Susan's, she had just purchased this house and she needed someone to help her pay the mortgage because it was expensive. And so she found Larry and Sergey at Stanford, and they moved into this garage. This was their very first place. And within about 6 months, Susan realized that Google had something really special to offer the world. And so she joined the company. And she joined as the first PR person. She was supposed to help spread the name Google, but the most important thing she was hired for was she was supposed to help Google figure out how to make money. Because Larry and Sergey said, well, we know how to find information, but we don't know how to make any money. So that was one of her responsibilities. And as you know, she and a team of other people came up with AdSense. So this is what the garage looked like in the house where Google first started. And this is one of the bedrooms. There were 3 bedrooms they rented, 2 bathrooms. They had computers everywhere, including in the bathroom. So if you went to the bathroom, you had a computer right there next to you, which I thought it was pretty funny. So my pedagogy empowers students, and that's my goal, to empower students. So I built, after that, the largest student media program in the world, and it's called Palo Alto High Media Arts Program. It began in 1984 in a small classroom. This is what it looked like. I started with 20 students using a typewriter and these X-Acto knives to cut out your story, hot wax to paste it up on a pasteboard. That's how newspapers were created in the 1980s and 90s. And then in 2023, the city of Palo Alto voted on a bond to build this media arts center on this Palo Alto High School campus. And it holds hundreds of kids, because at that point, actually, it wasn't long before that, but by 2023, there were 800 students, 12 publications, and 4 other journalism teachers. So there's a lot of story involved in that, in the development of the Palo Alto Media Arts Program. But the reason students came is because they heard from their friends that it was fun, they had a good time, and they learned to believe in themselves. And that is probably the most important thing. And that's why, again, I got the title of Godmother of Silicon Valley, because I was helping students believe in themselves. So there's a newspaper, one newspaper, television, podcasts, magazines, graphic designs, and photography. Those are the programs we teach. This is an example of the newspaper, 28 pages, 3 sections. It comes out every 3rd week. This is one of the magazines. It's 80 pages. It comes out every 6 weeks. As I said, there's many magazines. This is one of the first. It's actually called Verde, and the V stands for Verde. And they changed it to just a V about, 4 or 5 years ago. So just because the students seem to be in charge or are in charge doesn't mean the publications are not high quality. In fact, they have won a gold or silver crown from Columbia University for the past 30 years. And Columbia is a group that evaluates publications, student publications around the United States. Here is another magazine called the C Magazine. Again, everything is done by the students. This one is also 60 to 80 pages. This is what the building looks like inside. It's got a huge atrium. And the reason it has such a big atrium is because frequently we have large groups of students together in that space. And this is one of the classes. I'm wearing red. And these are many of the students. This is actually about 30 3/4 of the class, 75%, there were some other students that were in the computer lab, which is in the next room. Here's another picture of the class. You can see that students look pretty happy. And this is what you would see if you came in. You see students working together in teams. You don't see students lined up in rows and a professor or a teacher lecturing all the time. So the program is in the top 10 schools in the world for innovation. In fact, it's the #1, Palo Alto High School. So how do I empower the students? I give them the opportunity to believe in themselves and to practice by giving them control. So even though I'm in charge, technically, I let them control the class. Why? Because that gives them the opportunity to try being in control, try being a leader. So this is an important slide. It's important for all of you. Saved by Mark Twain, who was the author of Huckleberry Finn, a famous American novelist from the 19th century, 18th century. No, it was the 19th century. The two most important days in your life are the day you are born and the day you find out why. So by giving students control, they're able to find out their passion, figure out what they like and dislike, and find out why. So I use trick in the classroom: trust, respect, independence, collaboration, and kindness. I trust the students. I respect their ideas. I give them as much independence as possible. I collaborate with them. And I always treat them with kindness. So it empowers the learner, it encourages curiosity, encourages creativity, and builds trust in themselves. When you are trusted and you feel it's okay to make a mistake, you're willing to take a lot of risk. When you respect people, they learn to respect themselves. That's a very important point. Independence. Everyone wants independence. Little children, from the moment they are weaned, are making their way toward independence, said Maria Montessori, one of the famous teachers from the last century. Collaboration. Students collaborate all the time with each other. It makes the classes fun, and it also helps develop those collaboration skills. And I, the teacher, collaborate with the students. I don't make all the rules by myself. I ask for their input and we make decisions together. And this is an important statement by a famous American author, and I think about it all the time. I've learned that people will forget what you said, they will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. So if you turn out to be a leader, you need to remember this. It's very important in the corporate world. You want to always treat people with trust and respect. And you always want to make sure that they feel good about themselves, no matter what. I give students the opportunity to understand themselves, to discover their passion. And this is another slide that gives you more detail about why believing in yourself is the key driver of success. Hopefully you'll have access to the slides and you can look over these details when you have more time. So I put students in charge of the class. Here's another important one. I always let them revise. Always revise. No grade until they get an A. So they continuously revise. Some students revise twice, some revise 8 times. It doesn't matter. So here's examples of people who believed in themselves and their dreams. This is a young man who was in my class, Alejandro de los Rios. He decided to start a company in shipping. He knew a lot about shipping, and he started when he was about 19. And the company is called Nowports. You can look it up on the web. And Nowports is now valued at over $1.1 billion. He's 24 years old. So you don't have to be old and experienced to do this. You can be young. And here's another person who was in my class, Lisa Brennan Jobs. She's an author. She wrote this book, Small Fry, about her dad, Steve Jobs. So I knew Steve Jobs well because he was a parent in my class. This is James Franco, an actor that you might have heard of. He's been in many movies. 3 of them are Eat, Pray, Love, 127 Hours, and Spider-Man. He decided that his goal in life, his purpose, was to be an actor. He decided that in his senior year, he was 18. And this is what he said about me. He wrote the introduction to my book, Moonshots in Education. She showed me I could take my dreams as seriously as I wanted. This is Jeremy Lin, who is a well-known American basketball player. And his goal was to be a basketball player. And, you know, you can imagine how excited his parents might have been about that. So he followed his dream and he became a basketball player for the New York Nets. And now he's on another team. And I'm sorry, I don't remember what team it is, but you can look him up. So these are icons, people who believed in themselves. And I must say, this is the #1 person who believed in himself. With Tesla, there's a biography about Elon Musk today, and I recommend that biography. It will show you how much Elon went through to start Tesla. It's amazing what he had to endure. And Steve Jobs, the same thing. You know, in the 1990s, I remember Steve, because I knew him then, that he said we were all going to have a phone in our pocket. Let me tell you, everybody thought he was crazy. We all used to sit at home and wait for phone calls. We could not believe that anyone was going to have a phone in their pocket. He believed in his dream, and he did it. Larry and Sergey, the same thing. They wanted to show you you can get information quickly online. You can find information. And they came up with the algorithm for Google. They believed in it. You know, I think that the founding of Google was easier than the founding of Tesla. I can tell you, if you read the biography of Elon, you will see that. But still, there was a big struggle. It wasn't easy. Warren Buffett, he is probably the best investor in the world. Just look up his biography also. He struggled also to be accepted. So you need to realize that people make lots of mistakes before they reach their goal. You want to encourage revision. If you make a mistake, doesn't matter. Do it again. Find another thing. Don't just cry and be upset about making a mistake. We all make mistakes. So whatever you believe about yourself on the inside is what you will manifest on the outside. Just, you need to remember that. It's so important. So thank you for your attention. If you want to reach me, you can reach me on LinkedIn. And also, I think they do have my contact information at the university, Kozminski University. So that's also another way to reach me. So thank you very much. And I hope you enjoy the presentation.
Thank you, Esther. Thank you for delivering this very interesting and breathtaking talk. I think that we are all amazed by many stories. I would say there are different, various personalities, different like professions, but they have in common that they met you. It's like something for their benefit. Julia, yes.
One person with a hand up.
Yeah.
Yes, hello Esther. I do have a question. How, what changes or innovations would you like to see in the education system to better prepare students for the future?
So the main thing I would like the education system to do is to include revision in the process. So if you don't do well on something, I think you need to be given an opportunity to revise. A test, an essay, a project, something like that. Because if you get a bad grade, then you get discouraged and you don't want to do it again. And so I think grades are they don't motivate you. They do the opposite of motivating you. If you get a bad grade, if you get a good grade, then you feel really good about yourself. But the majority of people don't get good grades, but they do come up with good ideas. And sometimes they don't pursue those ideas because the professor or somebody in the group said it was a bad idea, but it might be a good idea. It's kind of crazy. If you look at like I said, if you read Elon Musk's biography, you will see that he had to fight all the time to get those ideas across. I mean, he was next to bankruptcy so many times. It's unbelievable, his story. And also Steve Jobs. It's again another thing. People made fun of Steve. He was even kicked out of Apple. There were like 3 or 4 years when he wasn't even part of Apple. And so some of your ideas, they might be better than you think. And so you should think about them and talk to other people about them. And if it's really something you want to do, pursue them, because we need ideas today to make the world a better place. We're all facing this crazy climate problem, the world as a whole. We all need to work together on that. And, so far, there are a few solutions, but we need more.
So you are saying, Esther, that the school without grades at all would be the good solution?
How about doing 20% of the time? 20% of you're never going to get the schools to stop grading. So we can forget that. Okay. But if you give them, let's say 20% of the projects that you work on, or 20% of your tests, or 20, so that you at least have a chance to get 20% of the time you can revise and get a really good grade. That's what I recommend, because I know for a fact no one is going to get rid of grades.
I see. We have to be realistic on this. Okay, so like 20. Realistic.
Yes, I make this statement, which I think is true. There's 2 institutions in the world that you cannot change easily, or perhaps never. The number one institution is the church. Never going to change it. And number 2 are schools. So you need to think about that. You can modify the schools, but that's about it.
Copy that. Copy that. It's a good thing. Church and schools on one line. I see Emil. Please feel free to ask question.
Yeah, hello Esther. It was really great to hear from you and to reach you and also to meet you. And my question is, as a mother and also a teacher of successful individuals, you've emphasized the importance of creativity. In the age of constant innovation, how do you encourage and nurture creativity in young minds?
So children are innately creative. You will see them doing all kinds of crazy things, 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old. they're basically, they don't know that they're doing it wrong. So they're creative, and they continue to be creative unless the school system comes in and tells them this is the only way to do it. And so if you take a look at some of the school systems around the world, they're very rigid. The child comes in at the age of 5 or 6, and then they sit there in rows doing exactly what the teacher says all the time. So that cuts out the creativity. That is the beginning of the fear of making a mistake. So there are school systems that give kids more of an opportunity just to play. And play is work for kids. I mean, Einstein said that the greatest research tool of all is play. And so let's let kids play, you know, if they still can go to school, but how about giving them a little bit more time to play and to interact, and then to not be so harsh when they make a mistake. Because many of the school systems are really, they're not nice if you make a mistake. And, you know, the kids are upset. And, you know, Elon Musk, for example, did very poorly in school. He was almost flunking out all the time because he wanted to do what he wanted to do, not what the school told him to do. He got into trouble all the time. So, you know, all I can say is I'm really happy that did what he did, because today you can buy electric cars everywhere, not just Tesla. There's electric cars, there's hybrid cars, there's all this. And where would we be without the electric cars? So anyway, that's what I think. You know, if you have a child, don't discourage them from coming up with new ideas. So I do have a cartoon that I didn't put in this slide presentation. And the cartoon says, you know, when you're a child, I want you to be obedient, follow instructions, you know, learn how to do things correctly. But when you're an adult, I want you to be innovative and take risks and be a creator. I mean, how can they do that if they train the child not to take a risk?
So in conclusion, we just need to let kids make mistakes, yeah? And just try.
Let kids make mistakes. You know, you can do the same 20% rule that I suggested for school. You know, they can learn to, you can do it 50% if you're doing it at home. Let them make some mistakes, but then also teach them why some of the rules matter. You know, nobody ever tells them why. They just like do it or you're going to get spanked, you know? And so yes, you need to build in that opportunity for them to play and to experiment.
Sounds great. Thank you.
You're welcome. I hope it works.
I was wondering, Esther, while listening to you, what's your thoughts on a Montessori system? What do you think about that?
That's great. I like the Montessori system because it encourages independence. You know, you learn to do things. No one ties their shoe anymore because now we have these shoes that don't need to be tied. But, you know, you teach kids how to do things themselves. They can get themselves dressed. They can use a knife. They can, back then you were learning how to talk on the phone, you know, all these things. So you're encouraging independence. And that's why I like the Montessori system. And it really works.
Thanks. It's good to listen because I do like it as well. I see Timoteusz. Please feel free to ask question.
Hi, hello.
Hi.
So my question is, in your opinion, how did you manage to run 3 areas of your life successfully, namely being a mother, a journalist, a teacher, and also what can be a common theme and idea of these 3 different areas?
Yes, you're right. I did do 3 at the same time. Well, the most important thing I did was when my children were young, I concentrated on my children. And then when they got a little older being going to school, preschool, then I had more of a chance to also be a journalist. And I was a journalist. You know, it's easy to be a journalist because you can write from home. You know, you can gather the information, and then you can continue working at home at night. And I went back to work as a teacher when they were all in school. So I managed all 3. Also, I should just tell you one other little secret. I have a very high energy level. So I don't sleep a lot, but also I'm primarily a vegetarian, and I think that it's easier to have more energy if your body doesn't have to spend a lot of time digesting large clumps of meat. So I'm sorry, that's another thing that I did. Also, you know, I feel sorry for animals, so I'm not a big meat eater.
Can I ask you kindly, when are you vegetarian?
When am I vegetarian, did you say?
Yeah. Since when, yeah.
Oh, since when? Well, I was always, even as a child, my favorite food was always vegetables, but I did still eat meat. I became pretty much a strict vegetarian maybe 20 years ago. So but you know, I was never a big meat eater. So here in the United States, I don't know whether you ever heard, but in the Midwest, when you ordered a steak dinner, the steak is as big as the plate. And you know, I ordered one of these once, and I could not believe it. It looked like enough meat for about a family of 8, and one person eats the whole thing. So anyway, I don't do that.
Good for you and good for planet Earth. Tymoteusz, are you ready? I mean, are you done with your questions? Because I see your hand up.
Yeah, done. Thank you.
Okay. If you have any other follow-up questions, I'm happy to answer.
Pavel just shown up, and Pavel, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Hey.
Hey there.
Do you have maybe any plan to visit Warsaw?
Yes, I would like to come to Poland next year. I was just there this year, you know, in May.
Okay.
And that's where I met Kosma.
Okay, so
yes, I would like to come to Warsaw. You know, my husband was born in Warsaw.
Oh.
You know, I have this Polish last name because my husband was Polish. He was born in Warsaw, and then he lived in Poland. He was a leader in what was called the Polish Peasant Party. And yeah, Franek Wojcicki.
Nice. Okay, so when you will visit this city, could I invite you for coffee?
Of course.
You look like a person who have really nice mindsets, so I would love to show you our projects also and talk and just have fun and exchange of know-how and some of experience from Poland, from United States.
That would be great. So my goal and what I'm doing these days is I'm trying to help and support young entrepreneurs, because a lot of them, you know, they run into, it's not easy to be an entrepreneur, and they need support.
I want to support the people who have problems with suicides and the pandemic of loneliness. I started the project named The Art of Life, in Polish Sztuka Życia. So that's all, I think, in short.
Oh, that sounds great. So I was in Washington, D.C. about a month ago at something called the Art of Living. Have you ever heard of the Art of Living program?
There is a program like this. I will check it right now.
It has 1.5 billion people involved. The Art of Living. It's out of India.
Yeah, I've taken part in it. Yeah, in Krakow, there was like workshop under this name about meditation, breathing technique.
Guru Dev, Sri Ravi Shankar. I met him in Washington, D.C. I was impressed with how humble he is. He's got so many followers, and the Art of Living, it directly addresses the issues you're talking about: loneliness and depression and suicide. And they talk about meditation, yoga, meditation, things like that. And he's working in prisons, actually, helping prisoners. I mean, let's face it, most of the people that are in prison, you know, just made one or two, or maybe, I don't know, mistakes. Some of the mistakes are not so serious, but some of them are terrible. But if you can help them not do that again, that would be good for society and good for them.
Beautiful. Yeah, right now also I go to Kosma, to Copenhagen in this weekend to do also the Art of Life, the interview with people, how to handle this, mind thoughts. And yeah, okay, I'm a little stressed, but you accept my invitation, so I have to contact you when you will be there.
Yeah. Well, Kosma will help, because now, you know, he knows what he's doing. Let's put it that way. He's very efficient.
Thank you so much. I love to listen. You have a good evening.
Thank you.
I would love to do it, but I think that, you know, connecting Esther on Impact and just making this possible and making Esther come to Poland, it's a little bit, you know, logistic issue, a little bit more complicated. So I can promise a thing. It would be lovely, though, but I can promise, unfortunately. And Art of the Living you will be talking about is pretty awesome thing. I've done it, and I pretty recommend it. And I see Dominic from Students of Kozminski. Floor is yours.
Okay, hi Esther, pleasure to meet you.
Hello, Dominic.
So basically, a couple of months ago, I found a research paper published in APA, the American Psychological Association, and basically citing the research paper, it is about time-limited tests. And the statement of the article is basically that time-limited tests check students' test-taking pace, and they are not a valid reflection of their knowledge and mastery. And there are 4 empirically proven reasons, because that's a research matter. They researched it for over 100 years, since the article is combined research from dating 1920. And my question is how do you approach testing when teaching? And specifically, what do you think about time-limited tests? Since limiting students' time to solve a problem creates stress for them, and the article basically says that it's not good. I want to hear your opinion on that and how you approach this.
Well, I agree with you. Time-limited tests are really bad. They give students a lot of anxiety. They don't really test. They don't test the skills that you really want them to test. It doesn't really work. And so I never did time-limited tests. Well, that's not true. I did do some tests that were time-limited. So what I had students do is learn how to use all the Adobe software, and I gave them, I don't know, 2 hours to create a publication themselves. But if they didn't do it within that 2-hour period, I let them extend it. So I never wanted to make them feel like they couldn't learn something. And if they did it wrong the first time, I made them just do it again. So I'm not in favor of time-limited tests. And I think grades do a lot of, they scare people, because usually you have one chance to get an A. And if you, at the beginning of the semester, if you do badly on a test or a paper, then it's very discouraging, because why would you want to work really hard if you know you're not going to be able to get a good grade in the class? So I am against all of these time-limited tests. I'm also against giving students just one chance to do something right. I think we should give them more chances. I mean, if I just look around, I can see there were a lot of people that profited by having the ability to revise. And, you know, so my husband was a physicist, and he was a very distinguished physicist. He, if you look him up, Stanislav, you know, you can find out all the things he did. He got a lot of prizes and so forth. And he also believed in the revision and giving students an opportunity to revise. So it's not just in the liberal arts, not just in journalism, it's in everything. And so I wish I could help you with your research, because I think it's very important.
Yeah, for everyone interested, I pasted the link to the research on the chat. So if everyone wants to check it out, the APA research is on the chat. Thank you for your answer. It was brilliant.
Thank you. Thank you for asking that question.
Thanks, Dominic. Thanks for the your comment, and thanks for the link for the further like investigation. You are more than welcome to look it up to it. And Esther, number grades are not good a solution according to you. What about like feedback? I mean, description, a few sentences on the quality of paper, for example.
Well, what I did on papers, so I was teaching students to write. And I must say, I think writing is one of the hardest things that students learn to do. And all I did was edit the paper. Sometimes the papers would be, you know, 3 or 4 pages long. I just edit them. They looked pretty bad. There were like red marks everywhere, but no grade, no grade. And I'm telling you, the lack of grade made the difference. All those students, they would revise. And sometimes it worked with just one more revision, but sometimes they had to revise more. And it made such a huge difference. I cannot tell you. I have some students. I have one student, well, I had like many of these, but this one student was particularly dramatic. He had flunked out in the school across town. It was Palo Alto has 2 high schools. He got all Fs in his freshman year. And so the parents moved him to the new school because they're like, this kid is never going to learn to do anything. And so he found me. I'm not quite sure how. I accepted him. It was a struggle because I had to teach him to write. And honestly, he was there after school. He was there all the time. But, you know, this is a long story, but I can tell you that this student learned in the 9th grade, finally how to read and write. 10th grade, he did better. 11th grade, 12th grade. I just want you to know at the end of this story, this is a kid who was terrible. I managed to get him into Harvard. Okay. Today, he's a very successful businessman. So I just think, you know, you have to let kids believe in themselves. And one way is the revision. Let them revise. This time testing stuff is so bad for your self-image.
Thanks. Very valid point, and I appreciate it. I appreciate your answer over here. I see Maciej, if you would like to ask your question.
Yes, I'm here. Firstly, I have one question to you. If you don't mind, I would be very happy to join a coffee with you and Paweł in next year, of course. But
when I come to Warsaw, we can all have coffee together. Yes.
Okay, my dream. Okay, but to the point, I have a question. In hindsight, how would you describe your role as a parent in your daughter's success in terms of percentage? You know, that's how much of their effort was made to how can I say that? Success, just success, you know.
So, you know, I think the answer to that is it was both my husband and myself. My husband, He also illustrated exactly the same skills. He never gave up. He, pursued no matter what. So he grew up. He was born in 1937. So he was 2 years old when the war started. And he survived the war. And then his father, unfortunately, his father, who was a leader in the Polish Peasant Party, was arrested by the communists and put in jail. So the father never was able to leave Poland. But in spite of all these bad things that happened to him, he always persisted. He never gave up, and he was never bitter. And I think by not being bitter, he was able to spend a lot of energy in creativity and thinking about what he wanted to do. And he was, as I said, he was a scientist. And so he also believed in power of revision. When you're doing a scientific experiment, he was doing high energy particle physics. When you're doing a scientific experiment, you don't come out with the right answer the first time you do it. I mean, it's impossible. So he learned, my daughters observed me and him. And so we provided the models for those kids that, they needed to pursue whatever their goal was. It did not come easily. It was a lot of work, but it gave you an opportunity to work on something you cared about. Hope that answers your question.
Yes, but I meant how much your daughters owe you for behaving them and giving mindset to learn, and how much percentage they had to work for their own to success.
I think they owe me they owe me a lot, because without me and my modeling and my method of giving them an opportunity to always do it again, they probably would have ended up like any other little girls that are afraid to take a risk. So they do owe me a lot. The mother and the father, they live the model for the child.
I see. Could you tell me how is like, where's the limit? I mean, because you can just give a space, but how much freedom you can give to the child?
So that's a good question, really good, because they cannot do something that hurts other people. And they cannot do something that's against the law.
Okay.
So there are constraints. And those are the most important. And you also want to, whatever you're doing, you have to consider other people and how it's going to impact them. So those are the main things. I mean, my daughters, they wrote about it in the book that, and Susan wrote an essay, which I should probably publish, about how some of the things I was doing really embarrassed her as a child. But then she realized that was what she should do. Some of the things, I mean, if I saw something in society that wasn't done the way that I thought it should be, I would speak up about it. And I mean, I can give you just a very simple example. So one of the things is we live on the Stanford University campus, and all the professors live on the campus together. And years ago, if you were a child of a professor, you could not check books out of the library because you were not a Palo Alto resident. You were a Stanford resident. And I went to the city council meeting and I said, this is unfair. Stanford has a big library, but it's not for children, it's like for medical and so forth. the kids should be able to check library books out of the Palo Alto Library. Anyway, I created a bit of a fuss, you know. Anyway, long story short, they now can check out books from the Palo Alto Library. But, you know, that was just one of the things that I did. And so they see the mother doing things like that, and then they realize it's okay to speak up, even though what you're saying might not be popular.
But how can you know that what you want to do is the right way to do?
It doesn't, you don't want to ever hurt anyone else. If you're getting them mad, that's okay. But if you hurt them, that's not okay.
Okay. So okay.
Yeah. So it's a fine line. You need to make sure that you're not doing something. You don't want to make people miserable. Unless for some, you know, unless you're doing some kind of a medical thing. The other thing I've been working on is medical. So, you know, if you find out that there's a certain way of eating or a certain drug or certain things that cause problems for people, you shouldn't be afraid to speak out about it, even though you're going to probably hurt the company and the revenue and all the other things that they're doing. So you have to weigh that. You know, that we had this tragic situation, it's actually worldwide, you know, with the OxyContin drug. You know what OxyContin is? So we have so many drug addicts in the US today because of that drug. And, you know, people should have stood up and said something about it. But people were afraid. They didn't do it. They should have. And it's a tragedy, really, all over the US, and it went on for years. But there are other things like that that people don't stand up for and don't think about. I mean, just recently, there's a doctor who stood up and said that most of the cold medications that we sell here in the US don't work. And people are, the minute they get a cold, they take it and it doesn't work, and it makes it worse, actually. But it took a lot of courage for that man to stand up and do that. So, you know, of course, it's going to hurt the drug industry. So you have to decide, you know, what's your goal? What do you want to do? And as a parent, you know, you don't ever want to let them hurt themselves. You don't want to let them hurt you or your house or wherever you live or whatever. They have to be careful. They have to be respectful. That's part of the whole thing is trust and respect. And, you know, that acronym, it's got everything in it because it has, everyone wants to be independent. People don't like being dependent on each other. And children, you know, their main goal is to be independent. And by the time they're teenagers, they can be independent. And what happens in most teenage homes is there's a battle between the parents and the child because the parents want the kid to listen and the child wants to be independent. So that's why the teenage years are hard because the parents are having a hard time with this kid that grew up and now wants to be separate and independent. Of course, I should just tell you, if your child does not want to be independent, wants to live with you for the rest of your life, then you have a big problem.
Yeah. What about, like you said, like not letting them hurting themselves, but sometimes.
Right, Cosmo is frozen again.
Yeah, he got timed out again. Yeah, I think he'll be right back in a minute.
Yeah, I think he will.
That's pretty much him every time we have a meeting. I don't know what causes it exactly, but it's always like that. Okay, he's
Sorry,
back.
sorry. Like Terminator, I will be back. You know, as like Arnold Schwarzenegger just used to
Yeah.
say, I will. The phrase, famous phrase. I was just wanting, like, ask you about like kids letting them just to hurt themselves, but you know, in a, I would say, a distant level, but still not to look after them all time.
Well, like, for example, you know, kids like to get dirty. They don't care about mud and dirt and things like that. You know, that's okay. You know, although it's hard for the parent to clean up a kid that's really full of dirt. But there are things that kids can do, and they should be able to do, as long as, you know, they can't destroy the furniture in your house. You know, they can't take a hose and put water in the house. You know, they can't do certain things, but there's a lot that you can do that is not terrible. So you don't have to destroy the house. But just watch little babies. You'll see they are afraid of nothing. And, you know, you need to protect them from themselves. But then you don't want to overprotect. That's part of why, you know, in the US, we have these preschools. Some of the preschools have a philosophy where kids can just play all the time. Other preschools have a philosophy where you sit down and you have first thing in the morning is reading time, then is snack time, then is you know, some other time. Now's the time to play with your Legos. You know, I don't agree with that when they structure the playtime, because kids just want to play. They don't want to be told what to do all the time. And it doesn't hurt for them to do that. Also, you know, the country in the world that scores the highest on the PISA test is the International Student Assessment Test.
Yeah.
Finland.
Yeah.
And Finland believes in all this play theory, exactly what I'm talking about. And not only that, their children don't start school till they're 7. So, you know, you can stop trying to teach your child to read when they're 3. It doesn't matter. It won't work.
You got the point. Absolutely. You were talking about a house. I want to ask you about a very famous house indeed, all behind the Google house story. It's still like, because you were telling me when we met for the first time, there was like Chinese people going through taking pictures. What about them? Are coming them still?
Well, actually, they're still coming, because it became a tourist destination. And that's one of the reasons my daughter moved out, was because she would wake up in the morning, go outside to get the newspaper, and there would be a busload of tourists looking at her. And this was not good. So they sold the house to Google, and Google owns the house. And so if people want to come with, you know, a bus, they can come now because no one lives there. You know, it's kind of like a meeting place for Google. And yeah, it works. It's still there. Not going to go anywhere.
I don't see any questions, but as a last thing, I want to say, is it possible to set up a meeting with your daughter, Suzanne?
Probably not. And the main reason is because, I'm sorry to say, like, for example, this week she's traveling. She's really busy. Even though she stepped down from being the CEO, she now works on the self-driving cars. So she doesn't do very much in the way of public speaking anymore. Just a little bit. The mother, I'm the only one that does it.
Okay, maybe next year, maybe we can just set up a meeting with her, and maybe you too, online meeting. Who knows?
You never know. It just depends on her attitude and whether she's got time and whatever. I'm actually here at her house right now, taking care of all the kids. She has 5 kids.
But is she still living at Stanford University, or?
No, she lives at close to Stanford, near Stanford. She's almost there.
Okay. Almost there. Okay.
Yeah, I just realized my computer's going to die in any second. I better plug it in there.
Awesome.
This is...
For our benefit, I would ask kindly Dominic to summarize a meeting, because I don't see any questions, and I will be, I would say, good to say thanks on behalf of 2 organizations. Please, Dominic.
Yeah, so it's me again. To anyone who doesn't know, I'm also the project manager and vice chair of Students of Kozminski, one of the co-organizers. So today I stand or sit, since it's an online meeting, before you, full of gratitude as we reflect on this incredible presentation and Q&A delivered by the esteemed Esther Wojcicki herself. So Esther, your wisdom and insights have undoubtedly left an indelible mark on each of us, and I want to thank you very much for the presentation, the Q&A. And I'd also like to extend my deepest thanks to the co-organizers, Kreatywni Society, and the Students of Kozminski organization, which also I'm a part of. And special thanks to Kosma Kulczycki for organizing this event and working with Esther, sending the emails and organizing everything, to Olivia Skowron and Julia Sypytkowska for the promotion on Kreatywni side, and Mateusz Krupa, which is the president of Students of Kozminski, which also helped with the promotion. And speaking on the behalf of the organizers, I also want to reassure you that this event is just the beginning, and we encourage everyone to stay tuned for more stuff coming from us. And none of this will be meaningful without the active participation of all the attendees. So thank you all for participating in our event. And your engagement and enthusiasm have turned this into a dynamic and enriching experience. So thank you for everyone for contributing to this vibrant discussion. And what else? Thank you all again. And thank you, Esther.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for this opportunity. It was really very inspirational for me to talk to you.
Yeah, Kosma, you're muted.
Thank you.
After pandemic, you may think that everybody knows how to unmute themselves, but I want to say thanks, Dominic, but one and only thanks, Esther, and thanks everybody who joined us today. And I'm very grateful that so many of you have attended. I would say that presentation Q&A session, as Esther said in her video before posted, that it's not every day that you may listen to her, and it's was for Kozminski University special as a part of 30th anniversary of our university. So I'm very pleased that we can celebrate together with United States, thanks to Esther. And there's only one hand standing. Julia, you want to say something?
Yes, I also wanted to thank you guys. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Esther. Thank you, Dominic, Mateusz, Kosma as well, for this wonderful event and cooperation.
Well, thank you, Julia, for the kind words.
I just want to mention that Julia is president of Kreatywni Society Club, so there's 2 organizers, Students of Kozminski and Kreatywni Society. And thank you everyone for being with us. Thanks, Esther, for accepting our invitation. And I wish you all pleasant day, United States, and pleasant night, Poland and Europe. Take care, everyone, and stay safe.
Yes, you too. Bye.